everyone, Rose here, and I painted a baby dragon. I'm still very busy working on commissions at the moment, and they aren't really far enough along in the process at the moment that I can make a time-lapse out of them. So instead, I made a bit of a personal artwork. And as usual, my go-to thing for a personal artwork is a dragon. This time I wanted to make a tiny little dragon. It could be a baby or it could be just a small type of dragon, it doesn't really matter. But I wanted it to be very brightly colored and just overall have a very summery feel. Because it's summer here and it's starting to get very hot. Somehow, despite the fact that it's really warm outside, I still have a cold for some reason. I'm not really sick, don't worry about me, I just have a blocked nose and have to sneeze occasionally, otherwise I'm completely fine. But that does make it a bit inconvenient to record audio. So I'm just gonna pop in every once in a while to quickly explain what I'm doing, but I'm not gonna voice the full video. I have the additional brush sets I use linked in the description below, and on the side you can see what layers I'm using and what kind of settings they have. As always, when making a painting, I started with a sketch. This time I made several designs to start out with and then picked the one I liked the most and made a full scene based on that. Usually I'd make a couple of different sketches to try out different compositions and layouts and poses and stuff like that, but in this case I just wanted to make a quick fun painting and leave out all those extra steps. Next, I block in a couple of dark and light values to figure out the composition and lighting. This is again something that I'd usually do on multiple different thumbnails to try out different things, but here I had an idea that worked pretty well to begin with, so I didn't try out any more. I made sure to keep the background, foreground, and sky and such on separate layers, so I could just set them to multiply later and add in the actual color, and I wouldn't have to redo the lighting again. And speaking of the color, this was the only part of the whole process I made separate thumbnails for because I had no clue what I wanted the color of the dragon to be. I knew I wanted the whole scene to be a bright summer day, and I knew I wanted the dragon itself to be a really bright summery color, but that doesn't really mean anything. I guess maybe cyan and yellow are summery colors, but other than that, I don't know, I just consider bright colors in general quite summery. So I duplicated the whole image a couple of times and messed around with the hue and saturation to see what kind of colors would work. I eventually decided on this bright orange, which I scaled up back to the original size, and then I went about organizing my sketch and shading and flat color layers so that I could more easily work on smaller parts of the image individually. Then I tweaked the shadows a bit, added in some more ambient occlusion and ambient light from the sky, and added in a couple of extra bits and pieces that were too small and detailed to be in the tiny thumbnail sketch. And then I changed my mind on the color again. In hindsight, the bright orange was actually pretty nice, but I'm still satisfied with this new pink shade I picked. From here I use overlay layers to add some more saturation to the bright parts of the image and to add a bit of blue to the parts in shadow because they're still lit by the sky even though they aren't getting direct sunlight. And then it's time to start merging down all my layers and refining everything. That mostly means cleaning up a bunch of stuff and adding in more detail, so making sure that the sketch isn't visible anymore in the end and everything has a bit of texture and like there's more plants and all that good stuff. As always, this is the part of the painting that takes the longest, but also has not that much to say about it because it's just making the same kinds of small changes across the whole painting. At this point, I'm pretty happy with the overall detail and lighting and everything, but I felt like the little critter was a bit too smooth and matte, so I gave him a few rough reflections so he looked more like shiny and scaly rather than weirdly smooth. I noticed while editing that on the initial sketch he had like little spiky bits on his tail and back, and those would have probably been cool to add for just that little bit of extra detail and less smoothness, but I'm pretty happy with how he looks anyway, very round and babyish. The only thing that was kind of taking away from that whole soft babyish look was the slightly too long fingers, so I shortened them a bit and made them more like stubby little like hand beans. And I also added a bit of purple to them because the tail is a bit more purple and blue, so I wanted that extra pop of different color to show up somewhere else on the painting too. And with a couple of minor tweaks to the colors, the painting is done. And here's the finished painting. It's a bit rough around the edges, it could definitely be a bit more refined if I spent more time on it, but this was supposed to be a chill painting, just to have something for a video and to take a break from commissions, and for that I think it turned out pretty nice. And unlike a lot of my other more recent chill paintings, this one actually ended up being chill. I didn't get stuck spending ages on one specific part of the process, and it didn't take very long all in all. I finished most of it in a day. I think it took about 6 to 7-ish hours in total. Anyway, that's all for me for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe and all that, and maybe take a look down in the description below for my other social media and some interesting additional info. With that all being said, I hope you have a nice day, and see you all next time.